I just watched the entirety of the Studio Ghibli's catalog, and by God, is it great. So great that I cannot, just not talk about it. And I thought it would be fun to do a little tier list of all the Studio Ghibli movies because I'm qualified at this point. I've watched every single one except one. We don't not talk about that one. That one is not addressed. Anyways, though, here is the most factual and objective tier list of all the Studio Ghibli movies. Side note, since I'm trying to convince people to watch some of these movies here, I'll try to be as quick and spoilerless as I can be. But I do not guarantee you that this tier list is going to be varied because Studio Ghibli is so consistent and making good movies. Having a varied tier list would be insane. First up, Nashka of the Valley of the Wind, aka Kaze no Tani no Nashka, which basically means the same thing. First of all, yes, I know that this movie was released when Studio Ghibli didn't have its name yet, but it was made by the same people and it was re-released by Studio Ghibli, so yeah, I'm counting it as a Studio Ghibli movie. And I'm glad I did. This is Hayao Miyazaki's groundwork and it's inspired on a manga he wrote. And wow, it is great. The story is great, the world is impeccable, the characters are very believable, and the interactions they have as factions are very well thought out. And besides being a great environmentalist and a great anti-war movie, it is such a good sci-fi, which is not very much to be expected from Studio Ghibli, especially Hayao Miyazaki. Either way, it is a great solid movie. I just think that Miyazaki was still trying to find his way and trying to understand how he wanted to do things. You can see a little bit of his characteristics being shown, but there's still a lot missing that you usually see in a Miyazaki movie. Either way, it's pretty great and it's a definite A tier for me. Next up, Castle in the Sky, aka Tenku no Shiro Raputa, which means the castle in the sky, La Puta. Poor Miyazaki didn't know that this was a Spanish slur, and he later apologized for it. I just think it's funny that the Spanish dub still thought that it was okay to keep on saying this name as the name of the castle in the movie. So we got some funny scenes.
¿La puta?
Informad al general de que partiremos hacia la puta como estaba previsto.
Me gustaría llegar a ver la puta con mis propios ojos. La puta.
Anyways, I thought that this movie was, okay. It was fine. It wasn't amazing, but it wasn't bad. It was an adventure with some twists, some peril, yet again, a nice world, and some memorable characters, some less than memorable characters, and some characters that seem interesting, but then they don't have nothing to do for the rest of the movie and they're just there because. There's also some weird connotations that these 30-year-old man, 40-year-old man are interested in this 13-year-old girl. What the fuck? You can call it culture or anything. It still is fucking weird. The only thing I can really commend about this movie is its soundtrack, because guess who showed up to the party? Yes, the GOAT, Joe Hisaishi, one of the best composers in all of cinema. Also, we start seeing some of the most recognizable characteristics of Hayao Miyazaki's works, including the silence between claps, the ma moments as he calls them, and I think it's pretty great. So yeah, in my opinion, this belongs in the B tier. It's a solid B, in my opinion. Next up, Grave of the Fireflies, aka Hotaru no Haka. It's a nice tier. Following up, we have Mine. Okay, I'll go a little bit into it, but not much. I just think that this movie is better seen if you're going as blind as you can. I just want to say that this movie is one of the most emotionally raw movies that I've ever seen. It makes me feel feelings that I do not want to feel on a regular basis. And Holy shit, I had already seen this one before, and I promised myself not to watch it again. Haha, here I am, and regretful of it. As I said before, this is an S tier for me. The first movie directed by Isao Takahata, which is, in my opinion, very underrated. Miyazaki gets to have a lot of flair, and he's talked about a lot more than Isao Takahata. I mean, he directed most movies, and most of his movies are very consistent. Isao Takahata, not so much, but still, I think that this man has some great works of art, and some of them we'll talk about a little later down the line. Either way, it's a must-watch movie for any person in the world. If you're a human being and you breathe, you should watch this movie. Following up, we have My Neighbor Totoro, aka Tonari no Totoro. After such a hard movie to watch, like Grave of Fireflies, we needed My Neighbor Totoro. Basically because it's one of the most easily watchable movies ever. It's not confusing, and it's very, very endearing and very comfortable to watch. This movie is a classic. I mean, this guy is the face of Studio Ghibli, and that's for a good reason, because, well, it is a good movie. Is it one of the best, though? Not in my opinion. No. Not far from it, but I'm just gonna say it. It's not in the S tier, but it's really close to it. It's a very, 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 very high A tier. It's comfy, it's nice to watch, it's a good movie to have on a background while you're doing something else. It's very loose, it doesn't really have a plot, it's just an adventure, really. It's a visual adventure with some great scenes that really put the proverb of an image speaks a million words into play, and I don't know, that's just really it. I wanted a little more of Totoro, I wanted a little more of the spirits, that's what I thought the movie really excelled at, but it's unfortunately not its majority of the runtime. I don't know, I get, maybe I went in with too much expectations for this movie, I just didn't think it didn't quite make it for me. So, as I said, it's an A tier, an A plus tier if you will. Following up, we have Kiki's Delivery Service, aka Majo no Takubin, which is a little better translated to The Witch's Delivery Service. People, I could not count how many times I could smell this movie. It was such a great surprise. It is a movie that represents so well what it feels to go out into the world on your own for the first time, becoming independent, autosufficient, while doing the stuff you supposedly love and trying to find the balance between loving that thing and finding that thing straining, because, you know, it's work and you gotta be realistic about it. And even though you love doing something, even if you work a lot in doing that thing that you love, it's still going to fucking suck sometimes. And it's nice to be realistic about it and how this movie represents it. The setting, the characters, everything in this movie is so great. It's so well crafted. You can feel it was made with so much care, and it transmits that Studio Ghibli coziness that we come to enjoy. And it's very easily an S tier for me, and a movie that I will definitely watch a lot more times in my life. Next up, Only Yesterday, aka Mohide Poro Poro, which basically means memories that come tumbling down. And I cannot stress this enough, but this second title is perfect. It is literally what the movie is, just memories come tumbling down. Not only for the characters in the movie, but for you too. Let me tell you in advance that this movie is not to be appreciated by any children whatsoever. This movie is a movie for adults. And I don't mean it in a way that it's gory or that the characters say explicit things. I mean it in the way that children will not understand it. And that's the thing I love about this movie. It is probably the best coming of age story I have ever seen, in conjunction with proof that animation for adults doesn't need all that exceptional crap that we come to expect from adult animation. It is such a great movie to do parallels with your life with, coming to terms with your adulthood and remembering how it was being a child and what's different now and how you saw yourself being in the future and how you are right now in the future. What are you doing to make that future you dreamt of as a child, or maybe that dream that got away and it's replaced by another dream or by other people. It has very well thought out scenes which just impact you in the most emotional way they can, and well, that's Takahata for you, and that's why I love his work so much, is when he does this kinds of stuff where with just his images you're so emotionally affected, and sometimes even the silence hits you hard. It is a really good movie, and I think it's a must watch for anybody who's in their 20s trying to figure out who they are. Yet again, an S tier. Following up, we have Porco Rosso, aka Kurenai no Buta, which basically means the same thing. It was fine. I was expecting a little more, actually. I've heard people talking a lot about this movie. I just thought that it wasn't as great as people say it is. I find it a little hollow sometimes. Like it wants to say a little more than it says, and probably just didn't have the time for it. There are characters which are a little bit left out, and some very forced romance. I didn't get it. Either way, you can clearly see that Miyazaki just loves planes, and we'll come back to that later. That's really it. It's just Miyazaki doing a little tribute to his love for planes and World War. And I just love how this movie is so Italian, but not too Italian. Just Italian enough. Either way, there's really ain't much to say about this movie other than it's a B tier. Probably something I would watch like once or twice in my life and be done with. There's really not much behind it. Next up we have Ocean Waves, aka Umi ga Kikoeru, which means I can hear the sea. And for the first time, ladies and gentlemen, we have the first disappointment in this whole catalog. I just really thought it would be a little more than it is. I don't really like how I feel about this movie. It's kind of frustrating because I feel like it has a lot more to tell. It could say a lot. I think it's daring how they made really realistic characters, and they could really tell a very realistic type of romance that could exist, a toxic one at that. And what we got was just, a stupid plot about how a kid finds that he's in love with a girl that basically treats him like shit, while he has a friend. And if they went to the queer route, it would probably be a much better movie. There's a lot I want to say about this movie, but to say that I would have to spoil a lot, and I think I still recommend people to see this movie. It's not very big, it's 1 hour, and I think that's the main fault at it. It just could do so much more, and the only reason I don't completely find this movie wasteful is because, first of all, yes, yet again, I think it could say a little more, and it's nice to imagine what else it could say, but it's also because it pulls a little bit of a nostalgic chord. Even though I was born in the 2000s, it's very 90s in its style, and I like it a lot. And even for a TV budget movie, I think it could do it a little better. I'm stuttering all over the place because I don't know what to say about this movie. It's really a paradox here in the middle of these impeccable movies, and I just wanted to do a little better, that's all. And so I'm giving it a C tier. Following up, we have Pompoko, aka Heisei Tanuki Gassen Pompoko, which means Heisei era Raccoon Dog War Pompoko. For me, this is the worst movie of all the movies I've seen. This makes me uncomfortable even thinking about it. I'd rather have a movie that I hate, like Ocean Waves, because, I can feel like there's a lot more to be said, and it has a lot of potential. But a movie like Pompoko, where I'm just bored out of my mind and just not really paying attention to the movie anymore because it's so boring. It's way too big, there's subplots that don't go anywhere, It tries to have this mockumentary style of a movie, and that just makes the movie even more unwatchable because half of the fucking movie is explained to you, and guess what? You're still confused about what the fuck is happening because you don't know characters. Characters do not have characterization. It tries its best to convey an environmentalist message, but it's only really effective in, the last 5 minutes of the movie. Counting the credits, by the way. Well, you can counter me and say, oh, maybe you just don't get Japanese culture, you dickweeb. And I would say, yeah, maybe there's a lot I'm not getting because, I'm not Japanese and I do not study Japanese culture. I just like seeing muscly men punch the shit out of each other and doing kamehamehas. Even knowing that there's a lot I'm not getting, it's not mysterious in a way like Howl's Moving Castle is mysterious. It just looks like the movie doesn't want me to understand it. It's just confusing on purpose. And I don't like that. And this has gone way too far for now. For a movie I will not recommend you to watch. The only one in this list that I will not recommend you to watch. And it's a D tier. And it's the lowest of the lows I'm going to give. It just won't go even deeper down to an F in my opinion, or an E, because I'll admit that the festival scene is kind of pretty and well animated, but good animation is the standard of Studio Ghibli. It should be guaranteed. Next up we have Whisper of the Heart, aka Minio Sumaseba, which means if you listen closely. We just went from some of the biggest hiccups in the Studio Ghibli lineup to one of the best movies in my opinion. I was not expecting to love this movie as much as I did. I was expecting an adventure between, a girl and a cat in a suit. And what I got was one of the best movies I could recommend to anybody who is creative in any type of way. If you like creating stuff, by painting, by drawing, by recording a movie, by composing a song, or by writing a book, which is the main theme of this movie, I could not recommend you a better film to watch. I mean, it just depicts a very realistic way of what it means to be creatively driven and want to follow that creative-driven path in life. Creative people, when they pursue something that they love to do, like any of the other examples I gave you, like writing, you're going to have a lot of difficulties. It's not going to be easy. Because you want to have a solid basis for a job, but for that you need to take time to study and then doing, your job. And then you don't have time to follow your creative hobbies, and then you feel sad, and that's when it's just hard. And this movie depicts it so well. Also, incredible how they made this romance. I think it's the best romance, the most romantic couple in all the movies. And that's because it's just depicts it very realistically of what it is having somebody in your life that inspires you to be better. That inspires you to be who you really are and follow what you really love. And I just love it so much. It's so positive and so good. I really want everybody in this world to watch this movie, especially everybody that has a creative tendency. I will give this movie, of course, an S tier. Next up we have Princess Mononoke, aka Mononoke Hime, which means the same thing. It's really great, as expected. Everybody talks about this movie and how great it is, and yeah, it's pretty great. At the beginning there was a lot of gore, and I was kind of thinking it was excusable and not really needed, but as the movie went on, I started understanding why there's a little bit of gore, and this movie is dark. Please do not watch this movie if you're afraid of dark stuff. There's not much to say other than this is a great animation, with great music, and most of all a great story. A great anti-war story. It concludes very well. It doesn't seem like any frame of this movie is excusable, and it all makes sense in the end, and it's very well crafted, and I think it's one of the best works of Miyazaki. There's really not much more to say, and I thought I was gonna say a lot more. Okay, maybe I can talk about how much I enjoyed watching this movie after playing Breath of the Wild and seeing how much Breath of the Wild was actually inspired by Princess Mononoke. It was actually pretty cute. Either way, of course, S tier. Next up we have My Neighbors the Yamadas, aka Hohokekyo Tonari no Yamada-kun. Takahata comes back with another movie. It's a nice surprise. It's a pretty movie. I liked its watercolors. It's very simple. It's very pure. It's very funny, actually. It's a comedy. The first and the only one in this whole catalog. And besides being funny, it's not much more than that. It tries to convey a little message of, families are tight and together, and this is what a family is, actually. It's not what people think they are, and although that's a very nice theme, I just think it's not executed at its best here, and there are movies which are way better and way more emotionally effective, and I know that this movie doesn't want to be emotionally effective. It wants to be a comedy. I don't know, for me, it's not one of the best, it's not one of the worst, it's a B. It's a nice B, a middle ground, I'd say. Following up, we have the one, the only Spirited Away, aka Sen to Shihiro no Kamikakushi, which means Sen and Chihiro's spiriting away. The movie that everybody puts in first place. The best one, apparently. I couldn't disagree more. I know, pretty revolting. Everybody loves this movie. Everybody says this movie is the best movie ever made and the best animation ever. I just can't really agree. I don't see the wow factor everybody gives it. I mean, it's great. It's pretty nice. Very nice movie. I support it a lot. It's amazing. It's very well animated and the characters are pretty nice, and I think it's very mysterious and nice. It's just that for me. It's not more. It doesn't really connect with me on an emotional level. It doesn't really make me feel as immersed as people say. And probably that's because I'm over-analyzing it. I think that's a problem. I don't know. This time I think the problem is me. I think I have a skill issue right here because I can't appreciate this movie the way that everybody else does. This is the second time I watched this movie and I liked it way more than the first time. I watched it with a very different pair of eyes, a much older and nicer and more understanding pair of eyes. But I still cannot connect with this movie the way that people do. For me, it is just an A tier. It's not the S tier that everybody gives, the S plus, the best, the magnum opus. And it probably is the magnum opus of Studio Ghibli, but that doesn't mean it's the best, it just means it's the most important one. I think there are way, 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 way better movies in this catalog, which deserve way, 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 way more attention and importance, in my opinion. So yeah, I'm sorry if you really like this movie, it's the best thing you ever saw, I just don't get it. And I want to get it though. And it's in the A tier because I want to watch it a lot more times in my life. And maybe one day I will get what people see in this movie. Next up we have The Cat Returns, aka Neko no Ongaeshi, which means, I think, the Kingdom of the Cats. Which makes sense because this is a movie about a kingdom of cats. Wow! I think this movie is fun. It's a bite-sized movie, very small. It doesn't want to be big, it doesn't want to be extraordinary, it doesn't want to tell you much. It just wants to take you on an adventure that is theorized to take place in the same universe as Whisper of the Heart because, well, it has two of the same characters and it kind of looks like the book that the girl was writing. And I think that's pretty cool. I like the concept that they made a spin-off of a movie from Studio Ghibli, which is not something I would expect from them. I enjoyed it a lot, but yet again, it doesn't say much, and because of that, I can't really find a wow factor that would put it above the B tier, and for that reason alone, it's on the B tier. Following up, we have Howl's Moving Castle, aka Hauru no Ugokushi, What else can I say that hasn't already been said about this movie? If it's not my favorite, it's pretty close to it. I feel if I say something about this movie, I'll fucking ruin it. It is the prettiest, most wonderful, and most jaw-dropping movie I've probably ever seen. I get tingles every time I watch it. It's just the best mix of good animation, good writing, and amazing soundtrack by Joey Hisaishi, of course. That's it. I can't say more than that. It's amazing. That's it. Go watch it now. Right now. Like, turn off this video. Go watch it right now. And you won't regret it. I hope. It's an S tier. Following up, we have Tales from Earthsea, aka Kendo Senki, which means just Earthsea. Uh-oh.
Stinky.
Yeah, it's as bad as everybody says it is. I was kind of interested in knowing why people talk so bad about this guy and what he made. I mean, it was his first movie, right? It's Goro Miyazaki, Hayao Miyazaki's son, and much against his father's will, he tried to direct the movie, and oopsie daisy, it did not translate well. I cannot, blame him. He had a lot of disagreements with his father, and he asked for assistance from his father, and assistance was not delivered, and the production was really not very good, and it translates to the movie. The plot is full of inconveniences and stuff that is left unexplained. Characters have motivations, but do not make the best plan to reach that. They just make very weird decisions for plot convenience. It's bad. I really don't like this movie. Still, I was rather hating the fact that people were so ruthless and the production was so bad that I still find something more interesting in this movie than Pompoko. But it still is a D tier for me, and it will forever remain it. I will only recommend people to see this movie if they see Ponyo next, and they really want to enjoy it, and I'll explain that right now. As said, now we have Ponyo, aka Gake no Ue no Ponyo, which means Ponyo on the cliff. I had actually watched this movie before, and I liked it a lot. I remember liking it a lot. I just didn't have the context that I now have. After watching Earthsea and its interviews, I understand that this movie has so much more to tell than its main plot. Miyazaki made this movie for his son for being, unquote, the worst father ever. And attention, it's not the main plot of the movie. It's not even a subplot of the movie. It just connects well to the theme, and it translates so fucking well. Because the plot is not really about fathers, really. It's cute. That's the point. Being fucking cute. Characters are cute, and the relationship they have is cute. Also, there's moms, and the moms remind me of my mom. I love you, mom, but I guess it's supposed to remind of everybody's moms. I mean, if you have a good relationship with your mom, you will probably remind yourself of your mother. That's it, really. It's an environmentalist movie about unconditional love and loving moms. And also, dads with good intentions that mess up from time to time, apparently. I did not see it at first, but now I can see it a lot. This movie says a lot. And it's very not so big runtime. And for me, it's an S tier. I mean, not only does this plot fucking tell all of this, but at the same time, you get it with conjunction with one of the best animations I've ever seen. Like, holy shit, look at these colors and these water physics. It's amazing. I want everybody to see this movie right now. Following up, we have The Secret World of Arrietty, aka Karigurashi no Arrietty, which actually means The Borrower Arrietty. Honestly, kind of surprised how much I didn't care for this movie. It's just there. It's nice. It's a movie. Don't really think you need to see it more than once in your life to enjoy it. The only thing I can really commend is the sound design. I think it's pretty great. I wasn't expecting it to be that great, but sound design doesn't make a movie. Plot is iffy. It could be better. It could be more Ghibli magical. But oh well, it's the first time for this new director, and he comes back with an actually pretty good movie, so I'm not gonna be so hard on it. I think it, for what it is okay, pretty nice. It's a B almost falling to a C, but a B, and I just think that it could be skipped and nobody would notice. Next up, we have From Up on Poppy Hill, aka Kokuriko Zakakara, which actually means the summer of goodbye. This is the redemption arc of Goro Miyazaki. This man went from a very detestable fucking movie that nobody really likes to one of the best Studio Ghibli movies. A very nice, solid Studio Ghibli movie. It's a very genuine movie in what touches, emotions, and I like how Goro and Hayao Miyazaki work together to make this movie. It's very simple, it's effective. It touches a little bit on incest, which is kind of weird, but in the end it's cleared up, and it's nice. It's an excellent cooperation between a father and a son, making a very upbeat movie, and it's really nice. It's a really good adventure, and I think it's a good movie for anybody who likes animation and a little bit of drama. Not really much to say other than it's an A tier from me. That's it. Following up, we have The Wind Rises, aka Kaze Tachinu. A very beautiful biopic about the dude that built the Zero planes, and I was not expecting it to like it that much. I mean, I like planes a lot, but Miyazaki made me feel like I do not know shit about planes after watching this movie, because his love for airplanes is completely translated to this movie. He deposits every single ounce of his love for them in here. I think people who like accurate historic biopics will not like this movie a lot. It's very romanticized. I think it's for a purpose. The romance is really good. It's sad, but at the same time very endearing, and makes me believe that there's actually somebody out there for you, buddy. I also liked how the sound effects were so endearing too. Like, they used some of the people's voices as the turbines in the airplanes. I thought it was really cute. But the thing in this movie that got me the most was remembering that it was fully hand-drawn, and you have scenes like this with big, immense crowds. Mind you, every single fucking frame of this was painted on hand. Yet again, it's a really beautiful movie. It's a great work of art, in my opinion, and it's a good A tier for me. It's not the S tier because it needs a little bit of more of that wow Ghibli factor for me, but it's a very solid A, almost A plus movie. Following up, we have The Tale of Princess Kaguya, aka Kaguya Hime no Monogatari. Ladies and gentlemen and everything in between, this is the best animation that I've ever seen in my life. But it's not my favorite Ghibli movie. Although I was really immersed in this movie, it did not connect with me the same way that many others did. But ladies and gentlemen, this is the closest to perfection I've ever seen in a movie. But perfect is not always the best for an imperfect human like me, which kind of resembles the theme of this movie. It is beautiful and actually makes any Disney princess movie put to shame, because it says so much more than they could ever even wish for. It is a great retelling of this story that already existed, and it's expressed artistically in a way that I've never seen before. The ukiyo-e style was amazing, and all the singing and the kento scenes were, in my opinion, impeccable. Yet again, its theme is amazing, it's expressed in a perfect way, and I think anybody who's dealing with perfectionism and with expectations would love this movie a lot more than I do. I just do not translate to this movie because it's not meant for me. But I can really enjoy how perfect it is, and how well constructed it is, and how immensely Japanese it is with its art style and its music. And I feel at peace watching this movie, knowing that there is still hope in the cinema of today. It is for me then an S tier. Clearly, objectively an S tier. Okay, next up we have When Marnie Was Here, aka Omoide no Marnie, which actually means the memories of Marnie. So guess who's the guy who lost the footage to this part and is now improvising it? I mean, I've been improvising this whole video, but improvising times 2 at the middle of the night, still wearing his jammies and stuff. Yeah, it's me. Either way, to recap what I said in the original footage is that this movie might not be the best Studio Ghibli animation, and it might not have like the best story or the best characters. I just think it has one of the best emotional cores in all of the lineup. I think the main character represents so well what it actually means to be an introvert. She encapsulates the introvert role very well. But above that, we have a character that is struggling with self-love and kinda hates herself, and that's something that we don't see a lot, I think. Or at least I haven't seen a lot in movies, is that theme of self-hatred and the need for self-forgiveness and many other forgiveness type of themes that we can think of, because it kind of branches out a little bit. And after all that, we have one of the most intimate friendships that we can find in all of the Studio Ghibli movies. So intimate, in fact, that people actually thought that these two characters were in love. And well, for as much as I'd like to have an openly gay relationship in a Studio Ghibli movie, I just don't think this is the right movie to do that, because as spoilerless as I can say this, the two characters should not be in a loving relationship like that. But maybe one day we'll get a full-on LGBT movie from Studio Ghibli. At least I hope. It would be great. To sum it all up, amazing movie. Great emotional core. One of the best ones in what comes to emotions. Problem is, I was like emotionally asleep at this moment, because after so many Studio Ghiblis where I like cried in like half of them, yeah, I did not have tears left to cry. And probably if I watch this movie again in a while, I'll probably put it on the S tier, because, well, I just don't think I can have a very objective view on it right now. For me, it's an A. One day, it might be an S. And finally, Earwig and the Witch, aka Aya to Matsu, which actually means Aya and the Witch. I didn't watch this movie, but it's clearly one of the best in the Studio Ghibli lineup. I mean, the trailer itself says everything. Like, look at the animation, it's so great. It's CGI, man. Like, it's what Studio Ghibli is most known for. It isn't like there was like some really bad decisions right behind it. It's like Goro Miyazaki didn't fucking ruin it all again. No, what? No, now that can be Goro Miyazaki. Not poor Goro Miyazaki. What the fuck is this movie? I did not watch it. I will not watch it. I refuse to. I like watching bad movies to see what the fuck went wrong with it, but I'm not trying this. This movie, the trailer makes me freak the fuck out. It doesn't look like a Studio Ghibli movie. Like, what the fuck happened here? But I didn't watch it, right? So I need to give it the benefit of the doubt and give it an S tier. I guess that's it. I hope if you haven't watched one of these movies, you got interested in it, or in many more. I think Studio Ghibli is probably the most consistent animation studio that there is out there, and the tier list itself shows that. Like, a lot of A's and a lot of S's, and some B's too. I don't know. I think there's really no way somebody could hate this studio unless they really hate anime or something like that, which is kind of hard in my opinion. I just like to leave with the note that yes, Miyazaki is one great director and probably one of the best directors of all time. His movies are impeccable. His scenes, his images, the way he sees the world and the way that he sees animation and the way that he sees emotion and feels actually emotion is really great and unlike anything anybody has ever done. But I'd like to give a lot of commandments to Isao Takahata, which is the other director I talked about and the second most frequent director in this lineup. This man made some stinkers, I admit, but the rest of his work is impeccable works of art that can surpass anything that Hayao Miyazaki did for me. Kaguya is so well crafted. Grave of the Fireflies makes me feel like no other piece of art out there ever made me feel. And Only Yesterday is one of the most relatable shit I've ever seen. Please do not sleep on this man, people. Watch his stuff. Watch Hayao Miyazaki stuff. Watch Goro Miyazaki stuff too, and the other dude I completely forgot his name. Please watch these movies. If you like animation, if you like movies in general, please give it a try. And I don't know, be happy and stuff. I like you. You're pretty cool. If you're watching this, you're pretty great. You're pretty sexy.